Sean Diddy Combs' team is once again asking a judge to declare a mistrial.
Diddy's attorneys have filed for another mistrial. They are claiming, these are their claims, that the government knew that Cassie was lying in her testimony.
His legal team renews its motion for a mistrial. In a letter to the judge, they again allege prosecutorial misconduct. Defense attorneys take issue with testimony given by both Cassie Ventura and Brianna Bongolan. They claim both women gave false testimony about an alleged incident where Bongolan says Combs held her over a 17th floor balcony and threw her onto furniture.
What's good, gossip lovers? Your girl is back with the most chaotic update from the Diddy trial. Diddy's lawyers just filed their second mistrial request in 2 weeks. And honey, they're basically saying the prosecutors lied to the jury. But wait until you hear why they think they caught the feds in a massive deception. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. If you thought this trial couldn't get any messier, think again. Today, we're breaking down 2 different mistrial requests, why Diddy's lawyers think they've exposed the prosecution's lies, and how a simple hotel receipt from Trump Tower might be the smoking gun that saves Diddy's case. Grab your popcorn because this is about to be a wild ride through the most explosive legal meltdown of 2025. So for those who don't know, a mistrial is basically the legal equivalent of hitting the reset button on an entire trial. It's like saying, this whole thing is so messed up that we need to throw it all away and start over. And honey, that's exactly what Diddy's lawyers are trying to do, twice. When defense attorneys request a mistrial, they're essentially telling the judge, the prosecution screwed up so badly that our client can't possibly get a fair trial anymore. It's the legal Hail Mary of Hail Marys. You only do this when you're absolutely desperate or when you genuinely believe the other side has committed serious misconduct. Now, Diddy's legal team, led by the powerhouse attorney Alexandra Shapiro, has filed not 1, but 2 mistrial requests in just 2 weeks. That's either incredibly strategic or incredibly panicked. And honestly, it might be both. The first request was about some missing fingerprint evidence from Kid Cudi's car bombing case. But the second one, that's where things get absolutely spicy. They're basically accusing federal prosecutors of knowingly presenting false testimony to the jury, which, if true, could be grounds for not just a mistrial, but potential legal consequences for the prosecution team. The center of this whole controversy is Brianna Bongolan, Cassie's longtime friend, who testified that Diddy literally dangled her over a 17th floor balcony in September 2016. We're talking about a drop that would absolutely be fatal, and she claims Diddy held her there for 15 seconds while screaming, "Do you know what you did?" According to Bongolan's testimony, she was sleeping over at Cassie's LA apartment when Diddy came banging on the door like a maniac. She says she hid her girlfriend in the bathroom because she didn't want to expose her to things that I see. Which, girl, if that doesn't tell you everything about the toxic environment around Diddy, I don't know what does. Bongolan testified that she went out to the balcony to act casual, and that's when Diddy allegedly grabbed her from behind, groped her chest, and then lifted her up by her armpits and dangled her over the railing while threatening her. After about 15 seconds of this absolute nightmare, she says he threw her onto the patio furniture, leaving her with bruises, back pain, neck pain, and what she describes as ongoing night terrors and paranoia. The prosecution showed the jury photos of her injuries, bruises on her legs and bandages on her back and neck. This testimony was powerful for the prosecution because it shows a pattern of violence extending beyond just romantic relationships. It's not just a form of hurting someone, it's allegedly terrorizing anyone who gets in his way. The first mistrial request happened on May 28th, during testimony about the alleged firebombing of Kid Cudi's Porsche in 2012. For context, prosecutors allege that Diddy had Kid Cudi's car blown up because he was dating Cassie at the time. Like, imagine being so petty about your ex that you literally become a terrorist. During testimony from Los Angeles Fire Department arson investigator Lance Jimenez, prosecutors asked if fingerprint evidence related to the bombing had been destroyed and who might have authorized that destruction. Defense attorney Alexandra Shapiro immediately called for a mistrial, arguing that prosecutors were trying to plant this idea in the jury's minds that Diddy somehow had the power to make evidence disappear. The defense was basically saying, they're trying to make the jury think our client can buy his way out of trouble and corrupt law enforcement investigations. Which, let's be honest, given what we've seen with that $100,000 payment to the hotel security guard, might not be that far-fetched. Judge Aaron Subramanian shut that down immediately, saying there was absolutely no testimony that was prejudicial in any way, shape, or form. He instructed the jury to disregard the questions about the missing fingerprints, and that was that. But here's where it gets interesting. The defense is now saying that this line of questioning was all part of a bigger plan to suggest Diddy had corrupt influence over LA authorities, and they're using it to support their second mistrial request. Now, this is where things get absolutely explosive. During cross-examination of Brianna Bongolan, defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland pulled out what might be the most important piece of paper in this entire trial, a hotel receipt from Trump Tower in New York. The receipt shows that someone using the alias Frank Black, which is apparently a common alias used by Diddy, checked into the Trump Hotel in New York City on September 24, 2016, and didn't check out until September 29th. Meanwhile, Bongolan testified that the balcony incident happened on September 26, 2016 in Los Angeles. Westmoreland looked at Bongolan and asked, "Can you agree that one person can't be in two places at the same time?" And Bongolan's response was absolutely wild. She said, in like theory, yeah, it's hard to answer that one. Girl, what? It's hard to answer whether someone can be in two places at once? Then Westmoreland went for the kill shot. Ma'am, you testified that Mr. Combs caused you the injuries that you showed the ladies and gentlemen of this jury on September 26, 2016. Ma'am, you came in here and you lied to the ladies and gentlemen of this jury. The defense is basically saying they have proof that Diddy was physically impossible to be in LA on the date Bongolan claims he attacked her. They even provided a link to a concert review showing that Diddy performed in Newark, New Jersey on September 25th as part of his Bad Boy reunion tour. This is huge, because if Bongolan's testimony is false, and if the prosecution knew or should have known it was false, that's potential prosecutorial misconduct on a federal level. Remember how Cassie testified earlier in the trial that she saw Diddy dangling Bongolan over the balcony? Well, Diddy's lawyers say they have text messages that prove that's also a lie. According to the defense team's letter to the judge, they have text messages from Cassie to Christina Coram, one of Diddy's employees who is often called his chief of staff, where Cassie writes, "I just found out some crazy stuff." Now, if you saw your boyfriend dangle your friend over a balcony, would you text someone saying you just found out about it? No. You would say, "I just witnessed some crazy sex," or "Sean just tried to kill my friend." The fact that she said she found out suggests she heard about it later, not that she witnessed it firsthand. This is potentially devastating for the prosecution because it suggests that not only did Bongolan lie about when and where the incident happened, but Cassie, their star witness, also lied about being an eyewitness to the alleged assault. The defense is basically saying that the prosecution built a major part of their case around demonstrably false testimony from multiple witnesses, and that they either knew it was false or should have known it was false based on the evidence they had in their possession. If this is true, we're not just talking about witness credibility issues. We're talking about potential prosecutorial misconduct that could result in sanctions, dismissal of charges, or at minimum, a brand new trial. In their second mistrial request, Diddy's legal team is arguing that this isn't just one isolated incident of alleged prosecutorial misconduct. They're claiming it's part of a pattern of the government presenting misleading or false evidence to the jury. They're connecting the Bongolan testimony to their previous mistrial request about the Kid Cudi car bombing fingerprints, saying the prosecution's real purpose was to improperly suggest that Mr. Combs corruptly caused the destruction of the fingerprints. Then they bring up testimony from Mia, one of Diddy's former assistants, who testified about how she was able to avoid speeding tickets by mentioning Diddy's name to police officers. The defense is arguing that this was all designed to create a narrative that Diddy had corrupt influence over LA authorities. The defense letter to Judge Subramanian basically says, the government is systematically trying to prejudice the jury by suggesting our client can corrupt law enforcement, destroy evidence, and buy his way out of trouble. And they're doing it by presenting testimony they know or should know is false. Alexandra Shapiro wrote, "This constitutes another instance of prosecutorial misconduct. Accordingly, the court should grant a mistrial based on prosecutorial misconduct. What makes this particularly explosive is that these are federal prosecutors. the same people who represent the United States government in criminal cases. If they're found to have knowingly presented false testimony, the consequences could be massive, not just for this case, but for their careers in other cases they've prosecuted. Unlike the first mistrial request, which Judge Subramanian denied almost immediately in the courtroom, he hasn't issued a quick ruling on this second request. The defense filed their letter on Saturday, June 7th, and as of now, there's been no response from the court. This silence is actually pretty significant. When judges think a motion is frivolous or clearly without merit, they usually shut it down fast. The fact that Judge Subramanian is taking time to consider this request suggests he might think there's something to it. The prosecution hasn't responded yet either, which is also interesting. Usually, when defense attorneys make accusations this serious, prosecutors fire back immediately with their own filing explaining why the defense is wrong. The fact that we haven't seen that yet could mean they're taking time to craft a very careful response, or that they're scrambling to figure out how to address these allegations. Judge Subramanian has been running a pretty tight courtroom throughout this trial. He's already had to reprimand Diddy for trying to interact with the jury, and he's been very strict about what evidence gets presented and how. So, if he thinks there might be prosecutorial misconduct, that's a big deal. The defense is essentially betting their entire case on this motion. If the judge grants a mistrial, they get a do-over with a new jury, and the prosecution has to start from scratch. If the judge denies it, they've basically shown their hand and revealed their entire defense strategy. Are we watching a guilty man manipulate the system with expensive lawyers and legal technicalities? Or are we seeing the justice system actually work to prevent an innocent person from being railroaded by overzealous prosecutors? The truth is, even if Diddy's lawyers are right about prosecutorial misconduct, that doesn't necessarily mean he's innocent of the underlying charges. It just means the government screwed up their case by cutting corners or being sloppy with the evidence. But from a legal standpoint, prosecutorial misconduct is huge. The government has unlimited resources, unlimited time, and unlimited power compared to any individual defendant. The only way the system stays fair is if prosecutors are held to the highest standards of honesty and integrity. If federal prosecutors can present testimony they know is false and get away with it, that's dangerous for everyone, not just celebrities like Diddy. It sets a precedent that the government can bend the rules as long as they're going after someone unpopular. On the other hand, Diddy's legal team is some of the most expensive and sophisticated in the country. They have the resources to find every tiny inconsistency and turn it into a federal case. Most defendants don't have that luxury. First, Judge Subramanian's ruling on this mistrial request. If he grants it, this whole trial gets reset. If he denies it, we're probably looking at an immediate appeal after any conviction. Second, how the prosecution responds to these allegations. Do they admit mistakes and try to move forward, or do they double down and argue that the defense is mischaracterizing everything? Third, how this affects Jane's testimony. She's supposed to be the prosecution's final major witness, but if the jury is already questioning the government's credibility, her testimony might not have the impact prosecutors are hoping for. If you're as obsessed with this legal drama as I am, smash that like button and subscribe, because we are covering every twist and turn of this absolutely insane trial. This is literally the most explosive criminal trial of the decade, and we're watching it unfold in real time. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Diddy's lawyers have a point about prosecutorial misconduct? Or are they just using expensive legal tactics to confuse the jury? Are those hotel receipts the smoking gun that saves Diddy? Or is this just another desperate attempt by a guilty man to escape justice? Also, let me know what you think about those text messages from Cassie. If she really did lie about witnessing the balcony incident, how does that affect her credibility about everything else she testified to? Don't forget to turn on notifications because this trial is serving us daily drama. And you do not want to miss what happens when Judge Subramanian rules on this mistrial request.